Hi everyone, what's up? AB Squad, this is your boy Abbas. Welcome to the family. Welcome back to AB React. Guys, we are back here in checking out another of Douglas Murray video. And if you know you are ready to do this with me, do well to smash your like button, join the family, join AB React by clicking on your subscribe button and of course on your notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I upload a video. If you have recommendation, suggestion, guys, always do well to leave them right in the comment section. Alright, AB Squad, there is no time to waste. Let's check this out.
We're so full of our own expectations and presumptions that we always think that wars end by some kind of compromise. They don't.
There's this aggressive expansion of settlements, which is illegal. It shouldn't be happening. Would you defend that?
I regard it as being a second-order issue. There's a whole dispute about
it's not to those who are being killed or displaced.
We have people on the streets of London calling for jihad. Why are we in this position? What has Britain got out of this?
You appear to be advocating directly for mob rule to take part if it comes to it.
I still cannot understand how a society can be so insane that it can welcome in people who want to destroy it.
Well, tens of thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in Israel in the biggest civil unrest since the beginning of the Hamas war. Today, the country is at a standstill amid a general strike. It was called after the IDF recovered the bodies of 6 hostages from an underground tunnel in Rafah. Fury at Hamas is a given, but Hamas is not the focus of these protests. The anger is directed at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's accused of blocking a ceasefire and hostage release deal to save his own political life. Douglas Murray spent 6 months in Israel covering the war in Gaza, writing and broadcasting extensively in defence of Israel's actions. This summer, he faced his latest brush with cancel culture after racially charged riots caused havoc in Britain. And I'm delighted to say he joins me now to discuss all this. Douglas, great to have you back on Uncensored.
Hey, really good to see you again, Piers. It's been too long.
It has been too long. You're my first guest since the summer break. So much has gone on, not least in Israel with this war with Hamas. A massive development, obviously, over the weekend with the killing of 6 hostages by Hamas. As it's believed, the IDF were moving in to try and rescue them. First of all, your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, nobody can be particularly surprised by now about the brutality of Hamas, but I think still people are shocked. I think everyone's shocked that they would be holding on to hostages for almost a year in tunnels underground, making them undergo who knows what amount of torture and deprivation, only then to kill them maybe hours before they were going to be rescued by the IDF. One of them was an American citizen as well. I think there's a lot of questions in America about how it could be that an American citizen could be held hostage and then brutally executed like this. But yes, I mean, this is what Hamas does. And by the way, all the people who said, that Israel shouldn't go into Rafah, that they shouldn't go any further south, as I think I said to you before, Piers, months ago, of the 2 aims in this war that the Israelis have to destroy Hamas and to get the hostages home, it was clear a long time ago that the hostages had been taken south, precisely to Rafah and other places there. And this is why the IDF has moved in. This is why they've been fighting all these months.
The interesting development in Israel itself is the very angry reaction towards Benjamin Netanyahu. A lot of people in Israel saying, look, we understand the need to get rid of Hamas. We want to get rid of Hamas, but our biggest priority is getting the rest of these hostages out. There are believed, I think, to be 97 hostages unaccounted for, of which 33 are feared to have been killed, which leaves 64 or so who may still be alive there. And the question that many are asking in Israel is, are they all going to get killed as Netanyahu continues to prosecute the war in which he's doing so? And if that is the case, then shouldn't there be a hastening of a peace deal of some kind?
The thing is, Piers, is that, I mean, public sentiment, public mood at such times is obviously incredibly febrile. It's so grotesque that these poor young people should have been so close to being rescued only to be executed by Hamas. My view is that, it's understandable. There's grief and there's outrage in Israel. But, it is very important, like with some of the headlines worldwide. We had CNN and the BBC and others in recent days reporting the murder of these hostages as though they sort of died of natural causes and their bodies were then rescued from the tunnels. What happens in these situations, in my view, is that because there's very little really that the public can do, certainly in Israel, to pressure Hamas. I mean, Hamas does what they want, and what they want is genocidal. But, it is possible to pressurize a democratically elected government. And we've seen that in our own country. We see that around the world. If there's a group that you can do nothing to persuade, and somebody else who is vulnerable to persuasion, or at least to political and democratic pressure, it's quite commonplace that you would focus on the second. I just think that it's worth remembering that, as far as I understand it, the stumbling block in the negotiations has been the issue of the Philadelphia corridor, which is the Gaza-Egypt border. And just very quickly, the reason why that matters as an issue, and why, as I understand it, it's such a sticking point in the negotiations is, of course, the Egypt-Gaza border is where the rockets have been smuggled in from for years into Gaza, where much of the munitions and guns and much more has been smuggled in. And Israel, as I understand it, is simply trying to make sure that that corridor is no longer able to be policed, as it were, solely by the Egyptians, but should also have Israeli oversight as well. I mean, that's a long-term issue, of course. People are focused on the short-term issue of the hostages, and that's quite understandable. But in the long term, if there isn't just going to be an endless Groundhog Day-like repeat of these wars in Gaza, it is necessary, as I see it, to stop Gaza being remilitarized after this war.
The problem internally for Netanyahu is his own defense minister, Yoav Gallant, on Thursday got into a screaming argument with him during a cabinet meeting, specifically about the Philadelphia corridor. His belief, which many share in Israel, is that that is a deal breaker for Hamas for any kind of ceasefire deal that involves returning the hostages. And that whatever you think of Hamas, if you're trying to get to a position where those hostages are returned, then there's got to be some compromise here with Hamas. He says that if the Philadelphia corridor, which Netanyahu has made an absolute deal breaker his end in recent weeks, if that remains the case, then there is simply no chance of Hamas ever agreeing to any ceasefire deal to return the hostages. And there are concerns now internally, politically in Israel, that Gallant may well resign, and that may well potentially cause a fall of dominoes, which could end up with Netanyahu's government falling.
Well, again, I mean, politicians fall out all the time in Israel, like everywhere else. That's not surprising itself that Gallant and Netanyahu might be in disagreement on something. But again, I mean, I'd come back to this point. Asking Hamas to do something nice, asking Hamas to compromise is not a very straightforward thing. Sinwar himself, who planned and plotted the 7th of October, is an utter fanatic. And this is something, by the way, that we in the West have sort of forgotten about. We use the term fanatical to describe anyone about their football team as a supporter and so on. But a real fanatic, somebody willing to kill and die and doesn't care about that. And Sinwar, everything we know about him is that he is precisely of that type. We know that, there's an account in the New York Times last year of the Israeli doctor who saved Sinwar's life when he was in prison in Israel some 13 years ago or so now. His life was saved by an Israeli doctor. And Sinwar said to this doctor, he thanked him for saving his life, but he said to him, one day, he said, currently you're strong, but one day you'll be weak and then I'll attack. One of the young people murdered by Sinwar and his forces on the 7th was the nephew of the doctor who saved his life. This is Sinwar. This is Hamas. You could literally save the life of Sinwar and he'll still come back to kill you. Tell me that such a person is a reasonable negotiating partner?
Well, he certainly is a terrorist, and Hamas are a terror organisation. And I've completely concurred with you from the start of this that what they did on October the 7th was of such a heinous scale that Israel obviously had to respond with massive force as they've done. But you'll also be aware, as we head towards the first anniversary of what happened there, that
okay guys, that was another interesting one from Douglas Murray, and I guess this has to do with the Israel and Gaza fight. A lot has been happening in those two countries. A lot has been actually happening, and I think they're actually seeing a way how they can bring back peace to this country. So guys, let me know your own thoughts in the comment section. If you really enjoyed this video as much as I did, don't forget to smash your like button, join the family, join AB React by clicking on your subscribe button, and of course on your notification bell so you don't miss out if I upload a video. If you have recommendations, suggestions, guys, always do well to leave them right there in the comment section. All right, AB Squad, I would love to see you guys back on this channel, so stay safe, don't go away. Bye guys.